He never liked packages left on his doorstep. They always felt like unwanted questions, like someone knocking without actually knocking. But this one was worse. It didn't look new. It didn't even look like it belonged to this decade. The cardboard was worn, softened at the corners, almost sagging under its own weight. There was no shipping label, no tape from any delivery company, no handwriting. Just a box, sitting there, as if it grew out of the concrete overnight. He scanned the street. No cars slowed down, no neighbors lingered at their windows. The morning was heavy, gray and silent in a way that felt intentional. He nudged the box with the toe of his shoe. It didn't move. He finally crouched and placed his hands on its surface. It felt warm. Not sun warm, not body warm. Something else. Something like the last trace of a hand that had just left it there. He carried it inside only because leaving it there felt worse. On his kitchen table, it looked even more out of place, like it was rejecting the modern world around it. He slit the top open and peeled the cardboard apart. Inside were only two objects, wrapped in thin newspaper sheets yellowed with age. The first was a small oval viewer, framed in dark metal. Not bronze, not iron, something between the two, with a texture like charred bone. The glass was spotless, far too pristine for the state of the frame. He caught his reflection in it. His eyes looked slightly out of alignment, as if one was a fraction of a second behind the other. He blinked and the image corrected itself. He told himself it was just his imagination. The second object froze him in place. A VHS tape. Black plastic. No stickers, except one. The label was handwritten, in a shaky, uneven print that looked rushed and terrified at the same time. Property of the Mirrorman. He immediately pulled his hand away, as if the tape stung him. The words sounded wrong, like a warning disguised as a title or a claim that whoever owned this tape was not someone you wanted to trespass against. He didn't own a VHS player, but his uncle did, or he had. His uncle passed away 3 months ago. In his uncle's house was where the estate items had been sitting, untouched since the funeral. Something clicked in his memory. His uncle had been obsessed with mirrors in the last years of his life. He covered them, smashed some, boarded up others. He claimed they were acting wrong. Everyone thought dementia was finally taking hold. But this tape... He wrapped the mirror in a towel, placed the VHS tape on top of it, and drove to his uncle's old house. Inside, the dust hung thick in the air, but the living room was almost exactly as his uncle had left it. Stacks of boxes, unwashed cups, a faint smell of mothballs and stale coffee. In the corner stood an old TV with a built-in VHS slot, the kind that buzzes when you plug it in. He plugged it in. It buzzed. He hated that he felt relieved. At least the thing still worked. He sat on the old couch, springs poking through, fabric worn down, and placed the tape into the VCR. He hesitated. He didn't want to press play, but something about the box, something about the mirror, something about the label, it felt like the tape was waiting. He hit play. Static flickered. For a few seconds, just swirling lines and soft crackling. Then the image sharpened. The footage was of a bathroom, not his uncle's bathroom, something older, tiled in an olive green pattern that belonged to the 70s. In the center was a mirror, large, rectangular, the kind built into the wall. The reflection was warped, stretched like heat waves. A figure appeared. Not a person, a reflection, a human shape made entirely of distortion, like a silhouette carved out of static. It pulsed, like breathing. The camera zoomed closer to the mirror. Not a natural zoom. It jerked forward as if someone yanked it toward the glass. The distorted reflection moved. No, dragged. Something unseen pulled it deeper into the mirror, like hands gripping its shoulders. The distortion elongated, resisting, then snapped into the glass violently. The screen crackled. The reflection vanished. And then someone else appeared. A woman. Normal-looking, young, terrified. She pounded on the glass from the inside, and she screamed his name. His real name. Not a nickname, not a coincidence, his exact name. "Help me! Please! He sees you! He sees you watching!" He froze. Her face slamming against the inside of the mirror didn't look faked. Her panic didn't look acted. She clawed at the glass so hard, bloody streaks marked the mirror's interior surface. She gasped for breath. "Don't look at mirrors. Don't—" A hand appeared behind her shoulder. Pale. Too long. The fingers bent backward at impossible angles, touching her spine like curious spider legs. Her eyes widened. "Don't." She was yanked back into darkness. The mirror in the footage went empty. Only the cameraman's reflection remained. And that reflection wasn't a reflection. The cameraman's silhouette looked completely wrong. Taller, stretched, twitching at the edges like the tape was struggling to contain it. The screen cut to static. He sat frozen on the couch, his pulse hammered in his ears. He didn't want to blink. He didn't want to look at the mirror he'd brought with him. He didn't want to move at all. But the tape wasn't over. The static cleared again. Now the camera showed a different house. A hallway with wallpaper peeling from moisture. A long, wall-mounted mirror ran along one side of it. He leaned closer. The hallway looked familiar. Very familiar. The pattern on the wallpaper, the chipped wooden trim, the faint squeak of the overhead fan. It was his house. A shot of his hallway, filmed from inside his home. A place he'd never filmed. A place no one should have filmed. The camera panned toward the mirror. His reflection wasn't there. Instead, the reflection showed someone standing in the hallway. Tall, thin, slightly leaning forward. A man-shaped shadow with limbs bent in wrong angles, like they had too many joints. The mirrorman, or whatever that label meant. Its head snapped sideways sharply, as if sensing something. It leaned even closer to the mirror surface. The glass rippled around its face like liquid metal. Then it whispered, a crackling, layered, glitching whisper. "I see you." He stumbled backwards so fast he fell off the couch. His shoulder hit the hardwood floor. He pushed himself back until his spine hit the wall. The TV kept playing. The camera zoomed further into the mirror, pushing past the glass, like the tape wasn't bound by physics. On the other side was his hallway, but darker, emptier, warped. A version of his home without sound, without warmth, without him. The mirrorman stood in the center, waiting. The tape cut abruptly to black. The TV whined, the VCR whirred, then the screen lit up again. Now the footage showed a list, handwritten, shaky letters on lined paper. It zoomed in until the camera was pressed right against the ink. He swallowed hard. His name was on the list, at the very bottom. The ink was fresh. He didn't move. He didn't breathe. And then, a light flickered. Not from the TV, from the hallway. The same hallway that had just appeared in the tape. A warm, living world reflection of what he saw. The bulb above his head buzzed, dimmed, hummed again. He turned slowly and froze. The small oval mirror he brought from the box, the one sitting on the kitchen counter when he walked in, wasn't there anymore. It now rested on the floor, near the doorway to the hallway, facing him, as if someone had placed it there, as if someone had dragged it there. He approached cautiously. The mirror wasn't cracked, it wasn't foggy. It reflected the hallway behind him, perfectly. But something was wrong. In the reflection,
He wasn't standing alone. A second silhouette stood directly behind him, tall, bent, hands hovering inches above his shoulders. He spun around, nothing. He looked back into the mirror. The silhouette was closer now. His breath trembled. His pulse thudded painfully in his throat. The house felt colder, heavier, as if the air itself thickened around him. The mirror rippled. The glass surface gently bulged outward, like something inside was pushing through. He backed away slowly, step by step. The mirror bulged again. A fingertip pressed against the inner surface. Long, pale, wrong. Then another, and another. They tapped gently. Tap, tap, tap. The same rhythm from the tape. The mirrorman was on the other side, and he wanted out. The tapping grew louder, harder, more eager. The mirror pulsed with each strike. He stumbled back and hit the wall again. The air smelled like iron. The TV behind him flickered violently. The tapping stopped. Silence. Then a voice leaked from the mirror's surface. The same glitch-layered whisper. Don't turn away. His skin crawled. The mirror vibrated. Then, a face slammed against the glass from the inside. Not the mirrorman's. It was the woman from the tape. Her skin was gray. Her eyes were wide, glassy, almost lifeless. Blood smeared across the inside of the mirror where her face pressed like a trapped animal. She mouthed words without sound. Then sound returned, all at once. Run! The mirror shattered outward. Glass exploded into the room like a burst of frozen rain. The last thing he saw before shielding his face was a pale arm reaching through the broken frame, an arm too long, with too many joints, folding and unfolding as it crawled towards him. And he realized too late, the mirrorman didn't just want out. He wanted him inside. He barely slept after watching the tape. Every time he drifted into even the lightest fragment of sleep, he saw that face, or what had once been a face, straining behind the glass. The sound of fingernails dragging from the other side followed him into his dreams like something living, something intelligent, something hungry. He didn't want to admit it, but the voice calling his name shook him more than the distorted figure itself. It had been too clear, too real. Not like an old tape glitching, not like background noise. It was intentional, direct, urgent. By morning, his eyes burned from exhaustion. He walked into the kitchen and splashed cold water on his face, only to freeze when he looked up. In the mirror above the sink, his reflection blinked a half-second late. He stumbled back so fast he knocked over a chair. His reflection did not mirror this. It simply stared, head tilted, as if observing him for the first time. Then slowly it lifted one finger to its lips. A shushing gesture. His breath caught in his throat. When he blinked, the reflection snapped back to normal, mimicking him perfectly. But the image lingered in his mind like a bruise under the skin. He grabbed a towel, covering the mirror without hesitation. He didn't want to see his reflection for the rest of the day. But avoiding mirrors in your own house is harder than you think. Every appliance, every window, every screen, even the blank TV, felt like an eye waiting to catch him off guard. Some part of him knew the moment he saw himself in a reflection again, it wouldn't be just himself. The VHS tape still sat beside the TV, like it was waiting for him. He did everything he could to ignore it. He lasted a total of 13 hours before he broke. Not from curiosity, not exactly, but because the whispering wouldn't stop. It began in the afternoon, soft, distant, like someone speaking through a wall. But there were no neighbors on that side, no TV on, no radio. And the closer he moved to the hallway, the louder it grew. Please, please help. Please don't let him take me. The voice was broken, trembling, suffocated, as if speaking from underwater or behind thick glass. He knew that voice. It belonged to the woman in the tape. He hadn't seen her face clearly, but the tone, the desperation, was identical. His heart pounded as he followed the sound to the bathroom where he'd covered the mirror. The towel draped over it trembled slightly, as if someone inside the mirror pressed against the other side. He reached out with a shaking hand. Against every instinct, he pulled the towel aside. The mirror was dark. Not reflective, not empty, dark, like someone had replaced the glass with a void of ink. Something moved within it, a shape shifting slowly like a silhouette pacing in a room with no light. Then the woman appeared, her face pressed against the other side of the darkened mirror. Her breath fogged the glass from within. Her eyes were swollen with tears that didn't fall, but floated upward, flickering like dust in a beam of light, gravity reversed. Her voice scraped out again. "He's coming. Don't look into any mirrors tonight. Don't." A large hand wrapped around her face from behind, yanking her backward into the darkness. Her scream was muffled instantly. Something else leaned forward into the frame. Something tall, something wrong in the way a shadow is wrong when it moves without a source. Two long fingers pressed against the other side of the mirror, tracing the glass, leaving streaks like cold breath, but darker, almost oily. It tapped once, then again, then a third time. Slow, intentional, like a code. And then the dark shape slid out of view. He stumbled back, nearly slipping as fear surged up his throat like a chokehold. He didn't enter the bathroom again. Not for hours. And when he finally dared to check, the mirror was normal again. Just a regular reflection. His reflection. But something was wrong. He lifted his hand experimentally. The reflection followed perfectly. He blinked. It blinked. He breathed. It copied his rising chest.
Except the eyes. Those weren't his eyes. His reflection's pupils were a fraction too wide, swallowing too much of the iris. Predatory. Watching him, not mirroring him. He covered the mirror again, this time with duct tape. It still whispered underneath. By nightfall, the whispers weren't coming from the bathroom anymore. They came from the hallway mirror, the microwave reflection, the black screen of the turned-off TV. Every reflective surface in the house had a voice now, murmuring in overlapping layers like 100 people begging behind thin glass. But one voice rose above the others, deeper, smoother, deliberate. Not begging, calling. "Look at me." He froze in the center of the living room. The voice came from the dark TV screen. "Look at me, Daniel." He hadn't told anyone his name was on the tape. No one should know. "Just look." He stepped backward, chest tight. No. The voice didn't grow louder. It grew closer, as if the speaker pressed its lips right to the other side of the glass. "You watched my tape. That makes you mine." "No," he muttered, shaking his head. "No, I didn't ask for any of this." "But you accepted it." His breathing became sharp, clipped. His ribcage felt too tight. "You touched what belonged to me," the voice purred, "and I collect what is mine." Something pressed out from inside the TV screen. The glass bulged inward, like a balloon stretched from behind. A long, narrow hand formed beneath it, dragging along the inside, as if searching for a weak point. Daniel backed against the wall. The glass stretched further, cracking, bending. The hand pushed harder, trying to breach. He grabbed the VHS tape from the table and hurled it at the TV. The moment the tape hit, the hand froze. The entire screen snapped back to normal. Silence. Then the TV clicked on by itself. The screen filled with static, grainy and violent. The VHS player whirred, even though the tape wasn't inside. A distorted voice leaked out, layered with static and scraping sounds, like metal being dragged across tile. "I'm not in the screen, Daniel. I'm in the reflection." He whipped around. The window behind him shimmered. At first, he thought it was the moonlight, but then he saw it. His reflection glitching, delayed, not following his movements correctly. Its shoulders rose and fell like it was breathing faster than him. Its head twitched at an angle no human neck should allow. Slowly, the reflection raised both hands and pressed them against the glass. He hadn't moved. Don't do this," he whispered, voice cracking. The reflection smiled with his mouth, but not his eyes. Then it mouthed something he couldn't hear, but he understood it. "Let me out." He bolted out of the living room, slamming the bedroom door behind him. His hands shook uncontrollably as he locked the door, shoved a dresser in front of it, then shoved a second dresser just to be sure. His bedroom had only one reflective surface, the closet door, a sliding panel of old, slightly warped mirror. He draped blankets over it immediately, but he could still hear breathing from behind it. He sat in the corner, hugging his knees to his chest, listening to the faint hum of something dragging its fingers along the glass underneath the blankets. He didn't sleep. He didn't move. He didn't blink. He didn't dare. Hours passed. Then the breathing stopped. Complete, suffocating silence settled over the room. He held his breath, not because he wanted to, because he heard something else now. A soft, slow tapping on the mirror behind the blankets. Tap, tap, tap. Then a voice, his voice, perfectly mimicked. "Daniel, open the door." He pressed a hand over his mouth to keep from making a sound. From the hallway, another voice answered, the same voice, same tone, same cadence. "I'm not in there. I'm out here." Then a third voice, identical again. "No, I'm here." 4, 5, 6 voices, all his, echoing in different places throughout the house. His own voice multiplied, distorted, layered, whispering, laughing, pleading. They all spoke in unison suddenly, an overwhelming harmony of his tone coming from every direction. "You can't hide from yourself." He curled tighter into the corner as the tapping resumed. Harder, more frantic. Cracks began to spread across the mirror under the blankets. He squeezed his eyes shut. But he heard the sound. One long, jagged fracture splitting down the middle. The mirror was breaking from the inside. Something wanted out. And then, behind him, a whisper. Not mimicked, not distorted. A voice he had never heard before. Smooth, deep, almost gentle. I'm finally close, Daniel. And when the glass gives way, a finger pressed through the fabric, you will belong to me. That was when the crack split fully, with a sound like bones snapping, and the reflection behind the blanket stepped forward.
The mirror split open as if it were nothing more than wet paper, the shards cracking outward instead of falling. They hovered in the air like suspended raindrops, weightless, gleaming, reflecting not the room behind Daniel, but something darker, deeper, wrong. For a heartbeat, everything was silent. Even the house seemed to hold its breath. Then the thing stepped out. It was him, but not him. The reflection that emerged from behind the blankets was an imitation wearing his shape. It moved with a liquid smoothness, each step too graceful, too calculated, like a marionette controlled by an unseen hand. Its smile stretched too wide, teeth too straight, too bright, a grin sculpted rather than grown. Daniel scrambled backward, his back hitting the corner wall so fast he bruised his shoulder. The reflected version of him cocked its head, watching him with fascination, as if curious how a living body behaved when cornered. For a long moment, nothing moved. Then the reflection pressed one palm against its own chest, as though introducing itself. "You've kept me waiting," it whispered. The voice was perfect, his voice, but cleaner, sharper, like his words were being spoken through an immaculate recording, purified of any human imperfection. "I'm not," Daniel stammered, throat tightening. "I'm not letting you take me." His reflection blinked, amused. "You already did." It took a step toward him. When it moved, the blankets pinned to the mirror behind it sucked inward like they were being vacuumed into the glass. The room dimmed at the edges, shadows stretching like spilled ink. Daniel lunged for the bedroom door, but the reflection was faster, much faster. It appeared beside him in an instant, its hand slamming the door shut with a force that rattled the frame. The wood splintered slightly under its touch. Running won't help you. It never does. He shoved back as hard as he could, but the reflection didn't budge. It leaned closer until its face hovered inches from his, eyes wide and impossibly still. "We are not enemies, Daniel. We are unfinished." The words didn't make sense until he saw something in the imitation's gaze. Hunger. Not for food. Not for violence. For replacement. It wanted his place. Daniel drove his elbow into the reflection's ribs, expecting resistance, bone, flesh, something. But the elbow sank in deeper than it should have, like pushing into thick gelatin. The reflection's torso rippled, absorbing the blow without even acknowledging it. "That's cute," it whispered. It grabbed him by the wrist, hard. Too hard. Pain shot through his arm as the reflection's grip tightened. He gasped as the bones in his wrist ground together, tendons stretching dangerously. It pulled him toward the mirror, the surface shimmering like water disturbed by a stone skip. "No,
No, let me go." "Why?" the reflection asked gently. "You invited me out." It dragged him forward another few inches, heels scraping the floor. His mind raced. He had no weapons, no advantage, no plan. But he had the VHS tape, the tape that started all this. He twisted hard, yanking himself free just long enough to lunge toward the dresser. The tape sat on top, exactly where he'd dropped it earlier. He grabbed it and spun around, holding it like a blade. The reflection froze. Its wide grin slowly faded. The room fell utterly silent. "That," the reflection whispered, "does not belong to you." Daniel gripped the tape tighter. Too bad. A slow, cold fury crept into the imitation's posture, its smile curving downward like melting wax. "If you break it, you break them. All of them." Daniel hesitated. "The people inside?" he whispered. The reflection nodded once. "Every soul that begged you for help will vanish forever." Daniel's breath hitched. His fingers trembled around the plastic case. "But if you give it to me," the reflection murmured, sliding closer, "I'll let you go. I promise." The sincerity in its voice was convincing, too convincing, the kind of convincing only something that had studied him intimately, obsessively could produce. He weighed the tape in his hand. The woman begging, the man screaming, the cold hand dragging people into the mirrored dark. If he broke it, he'd kill them. If he handed it, he'd kill himself. His decision wasn't brave, it was instinct. He smashed the VHS tape against the metal bed frame with all the strength he had. The plastic shattered. A blast of cold air exploded outward, knocking him backward. The lights flickered violently. The reflection shrieked. Not human, not synthetic, something between metal tearing and glass screaming. The blankets over the closet door flew outward in a cyclone of fabric. Black smoke poured from the cracked tape like escaping breath. It twisted violently in the air, forming distorted shapes, faces, arms, silhouettes, before being ripped apart like dissolving ink. Every soul trapped inside was breaking, erasing. Daniel covered his ears as their voices shrieked into nothing. The reflection stumbled, its form glitching, its edges flickering like a corrupted video file. It clawed at its own arms, ripping strips of skin that dissolved into static. "What have you done?" it roared, voice turning jagged, multi-layered. "You've trapped us all." Daniel staggered backward as the reflection surged towards him, but just before it reached him, its body ruptured into shards of light. A shockwave hit the room. The mirror imploded. Every reflective surface in the house shattered at once. Then, silence. Not the peaceful kind. A silence that felt like the world was holding its breath in terror. Daniel remained frozen on the floor, lungs burning, chest shaking. He didn't know how long he stayed there. Minutes, maybe hours. Eventually, he stood, shakily, slowly. He stepped toward the destroyed mirror, crunching glass under his feet. Where the mirror had been, there was now only darkness, a perfect void. Not a wall, not a hole, just nothing. He reached his hand toward it. Something moved inside. A pale shape. A face. Not his reflection. Not the mirror man. Something else. Something ancient,
something patient, something free. A whisper drifted out, calm, steady, too steady. "Thank you." Daniel stumbled back as a single fingertip pressed through the darkness, followed by a hand reaching outward. The void on the wall spread like spilled ink. He ran. Through the hallway, down the stairs, out the front door. He didn't stop until he reached the street. The sky above him flickered. For just a moment, the world bent at the edges like a reflection rippling before stillness. Then everything returned to normal. His house behind him went silent. Completely silent. He backed away slowly, breathing unevenly, staring at the shattered windows, the broken glass glinting under the streetlights like hundreds of watching eyes. Inside the darkness, something shifted. Not hunting him, not yet, just stretching its limbs for the first time in decades. He took one final step back and saw his reflection in a car window across the street. Except it wasn't doing what he was doing. It wasn't running. It wasn't scared. It was smiling. Wide. Patient. Hungry. Behind the reflection, deep in the dark glass, a tall silhouette stood with a hand on its shoulder. The Mirrorman. Free. The reflection mouthed silently, "You broke the wrong thing." Then it lifted one finger, pressed it to its lips. Shh. Daniel staggered away from the window, heart pounding, vision tunneling. From somewhere in the glass, a familiar voice whispered, "I collect what is mine." And this time, it wasn't calling him. It was calling everything. Every shadow, every screen, every piece of glass around him shimmered with possibility, with hands pressing from inside, with smiles stretching too wide. He looked at his own shaking reflection again. It smiled wider and stepped forward.